Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Real Talk About AI. This is Brisk Teachings webinar series, and today we're going to be talking about 10 ways to boost student engagement. I am so excited for this morning's presentation and so delighted to have the team from Northville Schools here with us. Let me share with you what you're in store for. We have a brief welcome and introductions. Every time we meet, we have some folks who are brand new to Brisk and Boost. So we do a quick overview of what Brisk and Boost can do for you. But because the focus of today's webinar is student engagement, you're going to see a lot of things in action. We're going to demo a lot of what Brisk and Boost do. We're going to share 10 ways to boost student engagement and a couple of bonus ways to boost student engagement because we just couldn't hold back on the good ideas. We're going to have an opportunity for your Q&A, and then we would love for you to share what's working in your school or district because we believe in sharing collective wisdom. I think it makes us all smarter faster and helps students, regardless of their zip code, to have an exceptional education. So then we'll have feedback and closing, and we should be together for no more than an hour. I know your time is precious and it's Friday. Happy Friday. And so let's start with introductions. I'm Michelle Cummings. I am the Chief Academic Officer here at Brisk, and I have been a teacher, high school English and social studies teacher, an elementary principal, a high school principal, an assistant superintendent, and now working in ed tech with Brisk and loving it and loving what AI can do for teaching and learning. I am joined today by Aaron Bauman. Can you introduce yourself, Aaron?
Hi, my name is Aaron, and I'm the Assistant Superintendent at Northville Public Schools or Instructional Services. Happy to be here today.
Wonderful. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Jen Lawson. I am the Instructional Technology Integration Coordinator for Northville Public Schools. Prior to that, I have taught middle school math for the last 25 years, and I am so excited to share all the cool things Brisk can do today.
Thanks, Jen. Hi, Karen. Good morning.
Good morning, Michelle. Good morning, everyone. I'm Karen Hogan. I'm a speech pathologist here in the Northville Schools. I have been working as a speech pathologist for 30 some years now. I've been with developmentally disabled. I've been in the hearing impaired program, the CI program, the autism program. Right now, I'm currently at a high school level, but I have been at every level, and I'm excited to show you some of the things that I do using Brisk.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. And would you all please introduce yourselves in the chat? We want you to be able to expand your professional learning network, be able to share with us who's here, where you're coming from, and what it is you do in education. So please take a look at the chat and see where folks are coming from. So for those of you who are new to Brisk and Boost, let me tell you about this extraordinary tool. Brisk is your new favorite Google Chrome extension. It is seamlessly integrated right on top of the tools that you always work with every day. It saves you time. It inspires your students. You download the Chrome extension. Please remember to pin it onto your address bar. Make sure that that push pin is filled in so that it's always there and you can always click on it to make sure it is there when you need it. It is free for teachers forever. There are features that are only available with the schools and districts subscription. And so we do encourage administrators and teachers to get a demo and get to know Brisk and Boost and all the features that are available through the subscription. It will show up everywhere you need it, on top of YouTube videos, on Google Docs, on any article and website, on your PDFs, on student writing, on slide decks. It will give immediate feedback, as you're going to see momentarily. It will inspect student writing so you can see their writing process. It will create unlimited materials, quizzes, presentations, resources, lesson plans, escape rooms. Yes, I have created some escape rooms and used them from Brisk, and they're dynamite. From any web page, any PDF, anything that you can open in Chrome, it will translate and level your texts to match your students' reading levels or translate into any language. Then there's Boost, which we're going to be talking about a lot today. You can turn any online resource into a safe and interactive student-facing lesson with AI-enabled chat. We'll be seeing a number of those activities that have been in use in the Northville schools. And so that's it. You go to briskteaching.com, you download the extension, and you are off and running. That little Brisk B will show up in the bottom of your screen, and you will be able to create and to engage students. We want you to remember the 80-20 rule. AI will get you 80% of the way to completing a task. Teachers' expertise is vital in creating high quality results. Teachers need to stay in the loop. You need to check for accuracy. You need to check for bias. You need to check for your own voice, and use AI as your partner and assistant in creating materials for student engagement. So that's the end of the overview. Let's get to the purpose and why we're here. Aaron, Northville Public Schools adopted Brisk. Tell me, what was it that went into that decision for you?
We spent a lot of time really looking at all the AI products that were being built for the school market. Brisk was an early front for us because we saw teachers really respond well to it. We found that it was easy to use because it was simply a Chrome extension. And ultimately, we had three pillars in Northville Schools for any of these products. One, it had to make teachers' lives better. Number two, it had to make things more innovative and engaging for kids. And number three, it had to maintain the uniquely human elements of teaching. And Brisk did all of those things. As well, it passed our kind of kick the tire test as a former middle school teacher and principal, and my wife, a middle school teacher. We were doing all the things in it to try to make sure that it didn't give back information or engage in conversations we didn't want it to, and it did pass that test with flying colors. And then we started to see what we could do both in saving time for the teacher as well as creating much more engaging opportunities for kids. So we went full in. We did a full pilot last year, and then this year we are using both Brisk Boost and Brisk Teaching across our K-12 classrooms in all of Northville schools.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And yes, the AI response quality is strong, and the safety and security for students is taken so seriously at Brisk. You're right about those chats. They won't be inappropriate. We are going to dive into 10 ways to boost student engagement using Brisk and Boost. Let's define student engagement first. Student engagement is the level of interest, attention, and motivation that students demonstrate while they're learning. We all know what it looks like as educators. Students are leaned in. They have a spark in their eye. They are pursuing their curiosities and questions. They are engaged, and we have a sense of what that looks like, and we know that it's linked to student success. There are lots of studies out there that have shown us that students, when they are engaged in their learning, they put in more effort, they are more motivated, they persist through difficulties. And so that's what we're about today, thinking about those ways that we can inspire student engagement. And here they are. We're going to share with you 10 different strategies, ways to use Boost and Brisk to engage students, and we'll throw in a couple of bonuses. So I am going to stop sharing my screen, and Aaron, will you take it away?
I will. So let's start with the most important things that get teachers' attention about Brisk. Teaching itself, which was the first tool to come out when we first started using this last year. We saw that you could take a student writing sample, and two of the ways that my teachers found that got their attention more than anything, because you can create, you can change levels, you can do lots of things, but these two things really got their attention. The first is giving feedback. I can take any document a student has done on a Google Doc, and this is Jen Lawson, who's on the call. This is her daughter, so we have permission to use this document. I'm not violating any FERPA rights there. But you'll notice here there are 4 different ways to give feedback. We can use a rubric, just basic rubric criteria. We can think about next steps, like what should you do now? We can also think about glows and grows. What are the good things that are happening? What are some ways you can make it better? But this targeted feedback is really what gets people's attention. And when you click on the targeted feedback, you're able to identify what you want the boost or the Brisk teaching to look for. And you can choose the standards you want it to measure against. You can choose a rubric and upload it there, what you want to look at. You can do both if you like. You also are able to give some specific directions, like I've just typed in here, please review for voice and word choice. I can also tell it what to ignore grammatical errors, because that's not something we're looking at today. And I can do all of that. And then I can choose the grade level that I want it to be graded against. So these are 7th grade students, I believe. So we're going to click 7th grade, and then I'm going to ask for targeted feedback. Now I'm going to click Brisk, and you're going to watch that this document will begin to be reviewed, and feedback will be generated automatically based on my rubric, my standards, and the things that I've told it I'm looking for. So you'll notice here that you'll see that it's measuring against voice and word choice, which is what I asked it for. And it's highlighting in the document, and it's actually commenting as if it's me. Now I have the choice at this point to decide, do I like these comments or not? I can read through them. I can click cancel and it goes away. I can edit it because I don't like what it says there. I can also click comment and embed it. So it's a lot of different ways that I can use that feedback, but quickly providing. What my wife has found is that she's giving lots more feedback and very targeted, very specific things that would have been very difficult for her to have the time to do when she's grading 150 of these. And she typically goes through and reads them all and takes a look at them and the first few. And then when she feels comfortable that the feedback is what she wanted, she oftentimes will run several more of them. So one way to do that is the feedback piece. So that's number one. And a lot of folks really love that targeted feedback option. The second way is to take that same assignment and do what we call inspect writing. What this does is take your revision history in a Google Doc that your student has built, and it turns it into a video. And I can change the speed at which the video runs. I can run it in real time, or I can run it 100x, like super fast. But I'm actually watching the students' thinking happen on the screen. And what happens here, the reason that engagement exists both in the feedback and here, is that now I'm genuinely connecting with this student, looking at their writing process and giving them feedback that's going to help them become better, because I watched what they did. I can see their thinking process. By the way, although that's not what it's intended for, it does make a great AI detection tool, because unlike other detection tools, this shows you what's really happening. It will identify every edit, how long they spent on it, and if there are pastes, which this document does not have in it, they'll be highlighted with a little yellow sticky note, and you'll be able to see where those pastes are. And you can simply say to the student, hey, can you tell me where this came from? And you'll have those conversations without being so threatening or being so kind of, serious. But also, I love that this is a writing tool. And honestly, I can go back and see any portion of their writing. I can move this slider bar, and now I can say, hey, tell me about this paragraph. What did you do here? Why did you choose these words? It's a much more engaging conversation with students, and it's more meaningful to them than 2 weeks later getting the essay back with some feedback that is now disconnected because I don't even remember when I wrote this, and you didn't even get to see my writing process itself. And now I can see all of that with just these 2 tools. So that's really what makes Brisk Teaching such a unique tool, and what creates such excitement for teachers when I show these 2. Honestly, when I show Expect Writing, that's just enough to sell them on Brisk, period. I don't even have to go anywhere else, but we're going to show you a whole lot of other ways that Brisk is going to make life so much better and create much more interesting and engaging opportunities for your kids. So let's switch gears and talk about Brisk Boost, which was released earlier this year. And we've had a chance to use it across the district already in Northville Schools. Jen and I were very excited when it was released, and we got a chance to take a look at it and play with it. So I want to show you a couple of ways that this can work. For example, this is a teacher who was teaching the Boston Tea Party in 5th grade. American history in Michigan is an expectation on our standards. And so she used the Liberty Kids, which some of you may be familiar with. And we decided to use this as an exit ticket. So I'm able to design an activity, and I'll show you just how easy that is. Open this video in another tab. Oh boy, sorry about that.
I just don't think it's practical. For me.
So I'm simply going to see the Brisk button in the bottom right here. I'm going to click on that button and I'm going to click Boost Student Activity. Now you'll notice it's red. The Brisk button changes colors depending on the type of page that you're on. There's greens and blues and yellows. Blues are usually docs and greens are usually web pages. You're going to see yellow when it slides and red when it's a YouTube video. And so I'm able to click Boost. It's going to take the video that's on the screen and I can choose how to use it. Now, my teacher chose to use it as an exit ticket. She wanted him to watch the video and interact. And so what we did was choose exit ticket, and then we gave it some very specific criteria. We could also choose standards from American history, standards that Michigan requires. So I can simply search for the ones I want. For the sake of time, we won't do that today, but they're all listed there. And then, of course, I choose my grade level, and then I click Brisket. Now, what it does a great job of is now it's going to build not only the standards for me, but it's also going to create the prompt that puts the role in place. So we're going to preview and edit it. So it gives me an example. So I'm going to hop to the activity since it's already done. It's like that cooking show where you take the brownies out of the oven. So this one's already done. And this is the video. This is what kids would see when they log in. They're going to see the video they would have normally seen on a YouTube screen. But now there is this set of learning objectives here in the top right that I want them to be able to prove they know before they're done with this activity. And I have this bot here who is going to have a conversation with them, who is going to get to those objectives. And as they complete them, this bar is going to fill. So we're having this conversation about why the Boston Tea Party happened. That was one of the objectives. You can see I've had some conversation with it. I can continue that conversation, and we'll show you in a little while what happens on the teacher side while those conversations are happening. Jen's going to show you some of that as well. So using any video on YouTube that has a transcript attached to it, which is most of them, something you've used in the past, you've used for 10 years, you just found this morning, you can quickly boost it in 2 or 3 minutes, and now you've got this engaging activity. You can attach to that video a tutor, a hook, a debate, a chat, anything you want. You can use it as an entrance ticket or an exit ticket, lots of different ways to take those videos and boost them. So awesome way to just make your videos more engaging, to know that kids are actually watching and interacting with them because now they don't have a choice. As a matter of fact, we used this with one of our adult training videos at the beginning of this year at our district to give people an opportunity to interact with it. So they had to watch the video instead of just pressing play and walking away. They had to interact with the bot so that we could get a sense of what people knew about the concept they were being trained on. Switching gears one more time, I love that Boost also is able to do anything in text. So any text I can find on the internet, I can boost it. So here's an article from Ethan Mollick about homework in the age of AI. He takes a very staunch approach that homework and practice as we know it is going to change drastically. So the way that I have prompted this, same thing. I went to the page, clicked the B, boosted, and now I chose a debate, which you see here on the right. I want you to be forced to take a side. So now you're going to have to not only read the article, but you're going to have to debate someone on the other end of this on your opinion. Now, I could say you're forced to take this side, but I did in this case say, let them choose a side and then you take the other side. And that's what they're doing here. So I would say that I'm going to take the side of I agree with the author. And now Brisk is going to take the side of the opposite and have to make me prove why I agree. Can you try putting it in your own words, which side you think better using AI for homework or not using it? So now I'm going to have this conversation. And again, the learning objectives up here are set. These are objectives that I put together in the process of creating that 3-minute activity. And now I know as they go through, I'm going to be able to see the objectives being met in my conversation. So taking any text off the web, PDF or web page, National Geographic, anything that exists in text form, you can now attach Boost to it so that every web page becomes interactive, every text becomes interactive in the way that you want it to, whether it's debating whether it's a hook, whether it is a chat, whether it's a pulse exit ticket or a pulse check. And so this is another great way. The other one I want to show you that we love is this character chat. Now, this character chat is where you can actually take a book and a character from that, and you can bring it to life. This is one that our tech coach, Jen Lawson, she's going to share with you, but this was one we did recently with a group of teachers to show them. So, Jen, you want to talk a little bit about this activity?
Sure. What's really neat about this is the students had read this book ahead of time. And now they're going to have an opportunity to actually chat with Chrysanthemum. The kids loved it. And how often do you really get to chat with a character from a book? And what was nice is with this book, Aaron, can you open up those learning objectives for us, please?
Here you go.
So, it's discussing the theme of self-acceptance and bullying and all of these wonderful topics that kids sometimes struggle with. They are able to have a chat with this character in a safe space, and they were gearing the questions toward the level of those students. So if a student was struggling with some of the vocabulary, it was able to then change the vocabulary into something that the student could understand. So you could take a higher level student or a struggling student and have the exact same conversation just at these appropriate levels. And it is a game changer for differentiation. I mean, just by the conversation, the chatbot is changing what questions it's asking based on the responses by the student. And this is one of the kids' favorite activities, especially, you got to love Chrysanthemum and everything that goes on in the story.
And what you'll notice is that at one point I said to it, I don't understand the words you're using, right? Because it shot out a fourth grade level, but I was able to say, I don't know. But I'm also, these were first graders, maybe they can't read or type. And so I also want you to notice that you can simply press the volume of the speaker.
Bob.
Oh, sorry, I turned her off.
Bob, that's a nice name. It's short and easy to.
I can also talk to it and say, can you tell me a little bit more about what you think here? Oh, I gotta allow it to use my microphone. Can you tell me a little bit more about this character? Right. So it's it picked up when I said the end of that. But I can use
This
can you
is
tell me a little bit more about the character, and then I just press the arrow. So if I'm not really great about typing or being able to spell the words correctly, by the way, the spelling, it picks up pretty easily if it's not too far gone, but also it will allow you to talk into and get the text you need.
This is so wonderful to see. And yes, I love Chrysanthemum. And you can chat with anyone. We had a teacher who created a story about the life cycle of the butterfly and then had students chat with the butterfly about her life cycle. We had teachers who certainly look at, fictional characters and want students to dig in, or who are researching historical figures. And so I love this elementary example. Do you have one for secondary as well, Aaron?
I do. This is actually one my school board president ended up inspiring as I was teaching them about AI and showing them some of the tools. He actually had his daughter in a high school reading a William Faulkner book. And so he went home and he built a William Faulkner character chat with his daughter. And what that did was allow them to be able to talk about the book. So I, as a teacher, because I was a former ELA teacher in middle school, I would say, hey, I want you to learn a little bit more about the author before you read the book so you have some background. And I love the fact that it actually talks the way that William Faulkner writes. I'd be happy to spin you a yarn or two if you're on mind to listen, right? It's really fascinating. And so it's really just using the content of this website about William Faulkner. So obviously I have to believe that the website is valid and reliable, but it's using that to then give me a conversation so I can talk about the book I'm reading or other books he's written. And by the way, if I leave this character chat open during the reading of this novel, they actually can come back to it and say, hey, why did you write this here? What was the reasoning? This is curious to me. And they're going to use their best understanding of all the knowledge that's been written about William Faulkner to try to give them the best insights possible. And at the end, they can then follow up that conversation and say, well, I finished this book. What's another one that would be like it or that's different than, or what's your favorite one? Because William Faulkner has made known his favorite novels that he's written. And so they're using that information. And it feels very much like a real conversation with William Faulkner, and it provides a whole new lens for students to engage with reading even high-level texts. So you can see that really works both for the lower L all the way to the high school level and really into college. And honestly, you could do this with your favorite romance novel. I mean, you really could, have it. My wife has a couple of authors that she really loves. She could certainly have a conversation with them as well.
Thank you so much, Aaron. So let's just recap the first five. You shared feedback on student writing because providing timely, high quality feedback on writing increases student engagement, increases the amount of writing and the amount of practice they're getting and the amount of coaching they're getting. You shared inspect writing so that teachers understand a student's writing process and can better coach them. You shared exit ticket about the Boston Tea Party related to history, and I think that was with a YouTube video. You shared with us a fourth one that was a debate opportunity for students to debate how much homework is the right amount of homework. Is homework the right thing to be assigning to students, to hone their arguments? And now we've looked at character chats. Did I get that right? Those are the first five.
That's correct.
Fantastic. And I love the way that you share how this is inspiring engagement with students in Northville. I am going to invite Jen to share
I have one more.
Oh, you do. I
Yeah.
apologize.
Okay. The last one is just how to boost your own curriculum, if you recall.
Oh, good.
I'm
Yeah.
going to show you real quickly. So a couple of different ways that we are boosting our own curriculum. So whatever curriculum you use, as long as, again, it's up on the web, you can click the B and boost your own. So my wife uses Amplify curriculum. So this is an assessment from her curriculum. We logged in as her in Amplify, we pulled it up, and then we boosted it. And so she's able to provide kids with sort of a study companion. So we created a tutor. All we did was boost the assessment, and we ask it not to use the same questions and not to use the same text, but to create a situation where kids could begin thinking and answering questions like it. And again, you could say, create a whole new text that's like this text or use a different one, but it creates a tutor. I pulled a study guide as well from one of our classrooms on algebra. This one we wrote actually as a pulse check for a teacher starting the class. Kids can interact with this study guide to decide what they already know, so teachers know where to start, what they don't need to deal with. And again, the learning objectives are here, but in this case, we're using it as a pre-entrance to the content, where in the other one, we're setting it up as a study guide to complete it. So you can also take your own curriculum and boost it in ways that you haven't been able to do before, providing a one-on-one coach, tutor, or a way to get pre or post-formative assessment. So another great way to do that.
That is so important when you think about the investment districts make in curriculum. And we think about how important it is to make sure that we're using high quality instructional materials, and to be able to make the curriculum come to life in this interactive way is really powerful. Thank you so much, Aaron.
And Michelle, when you ask about being on here, I was privileged to know that I have some really strong people doing some cool stuff. And so I'm really happy to have our guests with us today who are from my school district. Karen Hogan and Jen are champions for AI, but more than that, they're showing ways that it works in real, like people can say, well, Aaron can say whatever he wants, he doesn't have a classroom. These folks are using it in classrooms with kids in traditional and non-traditional environments. So I'm happy to have them here with us today.
Well, thank you, Aaron. I am super excited to share what we've done here. Now, one of the things I always struggled with at the beginning of the new AI was, how do I use it, in my classroom as a math teacher? And BRISC came along and really, I felt, did an amazing job with their math program and how they're boosting student activity. So what I did here is I had a few students who didn't do so well on an assessment. And as a math teacher, it is very difficult sometimes to find quality materials, or I am spending hours upon hours creating review materials. So I took an actual assessment here and I boosted it. Now, when I did that, it gave me 4 learning objectives, which they were exactly the learning objectives I needed. Now, what I could also do is get rid of a learning objective. I can add a learning objective, but this assessment is an actual assessment that my students would take. So I didn't want them to use those exact same questions. So I added this at the end of the role that Brisk was taking on. If you are getting a lot wrong, give them easier problems and do not use the same questions problems on the assessment, which is what Aaron had kind of done prior with his wife's class. And so what that allowed me to do is give these kids a great review. It touched on everything I wanted to be covered, and students were also able to track their learning as well. It kept them engaged. I love how these circles will fill as students grasp those concepts, and they can also see the bar moving as they do those learning objectives and complete them. It's incredible. And it was a great review, and it really broke it down piece by piece. And, you know, you always have those students, I don't know. And so, I'm logged into a couple different Brisk activities, so it's not popping up right now based on all the different things that I've got going on. But it's going to give kids immediate feedback. And I know there was a question in the chat about what do students see and where is this housed? And I'll show you in just a second. So just by using an assessment that was already created, in a matter of 2 minutes, I had an amazing review that did exactly what I wanted it to do. I wasn't spending hours trying to create a review to give to kids to then give back to me. They're getting immediate feedback right away, which is what we want as educators. Now, this presentation was created by an amazing teacher at Hillside, Kelly Moffitt, and students needed to create a shoe design based on their favorite candy. So this is an actual project. There's the overview here, the elements of art, all the things that they need to do for this project. So I, of course, hit Brisk and created, I'm going to boost the student activity, and I hit tutor, and it was able to give me an activity based right here on these learning objectives. Oh, I have it set for Spanish. It's jumping ahead, but this is okay because we're going to get to this in just a second. So now you saw how it worked in Spanish, which is my next point for my MLL learners, my multilanguage learners. But I gave this activity in English to a group of teachers because, you know, FERPA, I didn't want student names out here. So these are all adults. Now, as you can see, as students are completing this activity, this is what the teacher will see. And I can see that Abigail was able, she got half of this. So there's usually 2 parts to every learning target. And I can go right down here and see that Marnie did a great job and got all of the learning targets covered. So she is ready to go. I can also see, oh, David Clark is not engaged right now. And so I can then reach out to David and say, hey, David, what's going on? Why? So I can see. But I want to point out what Abigail did. Notice this little red exclamation point. That means she did something inappropriate. So what I can do is click view and look to see where she was inappropriate. And she said, I hate this. This is dumb. I also asked the teachers to write this so we could see what it looks like. But I think one of my favorite things was how Brisk redirected the student. I understand this project might not be your favorite, but let's try to find a way that make things more interesting. It re-engages the students. It keeps them on topic. If I go off topic, it's going to say, oh, that's interesting. Let's get back on topic. So there's no stray, there's no outside conversation. It will keep them on task. If it gets a little too out of control, it will also pause their screen. And I can also pause that student if I need to, and I can re-engage them. Students will see all of this, and then I will be able to see everything the students see. They can't see each other's work, but I can. So while you saw that created in Spanish, we had a student in art that was new to our district that didn't speak any English. And so this project, while really fun, is almost impossible for them to create other than looking at some of these neat pictures. So I created this short video to kind of show you how it works in Spanish. So you saw, I did it on accident, uploaded it in English. And so let me move it a little forward here. And so here are all the directions in Spanish, exact same ones I gave the kids in English. Now, I chose to turn off the embed resources just because it took up a lot of space, but the student still had access to it. So now you can see the learning objectives are in Spanish. And notice it even says Brisk Boost, written in Spanish as requested. So this student can engage in an activity that they might not have been able to engage with in the past. And so now you really can reach every single student in all the classes. If you have a student here that is a struggling learner, you can go ahead and change the grade level of the exact same project. So you can have multiple students working on the exact same project in different levels in different languages. So no student is going to miss out on this activity. They're all going to be engaged. And just thinking about how much time this saves in the excitement that it brings to students really is incredible. And we have had nothing but positive responses to Brisk. And I met with the teacher yesterday who was technophobic. He's like, oh my gosh, this is a game changer. It's like, and it's pretty easy too. I said, yeah, you just kind of push a button. And I mean, it's just really pretty cool what it can do.
Wow, Jen, you have explored a lot of really interesting ways to engage students. Just to recap, you shared a tutoring experience for students. You
Correct.
shared a math review. And this art project, that's a really interesting one to think about ways to engage students in brainstorming with an AI assistant for them. And then the multi-language learners, when you're looking at MLL students or even world language students, you can select what language the chat occurs in. You can translate documents into any language. And that increases comprehensible input that allows students to continue with their academic language development in their first language and so much more. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We are going to bring Karen on to share her screen and some of the uses for student engagement related to our students who experience disabilities.
Hi, everybody. Hi, I am coming from a little bit of a different lens here. I'm coming from like the special education, assessment, therapy. I'm that side of the teaching spectrum. And so what I'm going to present to you are things that I've used and that I've shared with some of my resource teachers and some of the, other people in the building. Currently, I'm at a high school level, so some of the things I'm going to show you are, related to high school level activities, but I think again, it reaches all students. You can do these same things with all ages of kids. The first thing that I have here when we do IEPs, which, I'm sure you guys all do IEPs across the country, we at the high school level, we have to start talking about, their post high school plans. What are they going to do when they leave school? So we give something called the STAT. It's a student transition tool, and the kids are expected to fill out this. I made it into like a Google form, and I have the kids fill it out here, and it asks a bunch of questions about, what they want to do with their future. What kind of employment do they want to have? How are they going to get involved in their community? And typically the kids will just kind of go through and hit, yes, I know something about that. No, I don't know what I want to do. And they don't really elaborate. And so when we get to the IEP and we have the transition pages that we need to focus on, it's unless we've sat down and had some really good conversation about the kids, we don't have a lot of the information that we need. So I thought, why not brisk it? Let's see what we can do. So this is the Google form, and I just took the, little brisk tool, and I said, hey, I'd like to do a boost student activity. And here's what I came up with. Let me see. I'm just going to show you kind of how I did this. I put in the prompt in that, where I brisk boosted it. I said, I'd like to create a brainstorming activity that can help lead a high school student into a discussion about their post-high school plans based on what they include as their current skills and interests. And then please use this document as a guide to lead the discussion. So then this is what they see. They see the stat assessment off to the left, and they can fill it out as they're talking to the bot, as they're brainstorming. They can brainstorm and then fill it out. As an adult, what kind of work do you want to do? And over on the right side, the brainstorming, it says, tell me, what would you like to talk about today? Oh, you want to talk about your career path. Okay. Can you tell me any jobs or careers that are of interest to you? I said, I'd like to work with animals. And it came back with, oh, working with animals sounds great. Have you thought about these ideas? So you can kind of go through and have a nice little conversation. And then that leads to some excellent conversation during the IEP when you get to that transition period of the meeting. So that's my one example. And I've shared that with like our resource teachers, because they have the kids do modules in the resource room, and thought this would be a great opportunity. They could do this as a lesson within the classroom. All the kids can be working on it at the same time, and they all get their stat assessments completed. The next thing I came up with is I do some, individual support for students. As a speech pathologist, I have plenty of kids who really struggle with the social interaction, knowing how to initiate interactions, how to maintain those interactions. So in the past, I give them interaction worksheets. Like if a friend compliments your outfit, what might you say? Oh, thank you. I really like your blank today also. Learning how to respond to what someone has said and then keep the conversation going by asking a question or making an additional comment. I've done a lot of like group work where I have kids come in and we practice back and forth, but the lesson kind of stops there when they leave my room. So I get 30 minutes with them, and then that's about it. Something like, using Brisk and doing a boost activity, it kind of takes it to another level where they can continue using it outside of my room. They can go home, they can practice it with their family. They can open up this document anytime that they want, and just go ahead and give it some practice. So what I did is I took the boost activity, I put in my prompt, create a tutoring activity about this document, help the student learn how to respond to initiated interactions and how to maintain the interaction by having the student ask follow-up questions. So the activity is going to be, how can you maintain that interaction, respond to a social bid, and then keep the conversation going. So I put the worksheet in, and over here I have the tutoring, activity. Hi, it's great to see you. Can you tell me what you think makes conversation meaningful? They talk about that. And then what follow-up questions might you ask to keep the conversation going? Oh yeah, why is a good start, but let's try to make it more specific. How about ask, why was your day so busy? This shows your interest in the details. So it even gives an explanation as to what it's recommending a student can say. So the student not only is getting those examples, but it's getting the instruction as well. So that was my second example. Third, I have students that I am helping them learn. They have memory difficulties. I have some kids who receive resource because they struggle with language and memory, and they generally bring, on their IEPs, we say they can bring study guides into, test taking opportunities, but we want to with any IEP, the goal is to work toward moving them away from needing those additional accommodations. And so one of my jobs is, let's see if I can help them learn some strategies so that maybe they don't need to take those additional, study tools in with them to a test. So I generally will ask teachers, hey, can you give me a copy of your study guide? And in the past, I would just sit down and we'd, go back and forth and I'd help them learn ways to learn the study guide. We work on learning how to use acronyms, or learning how to use storytelling as a technique, or learning, just a variety of mind mapping type of strategies. Well, now students can go and I've taken their study guide and I put it into Boost and I say, hey, create me an activity where a student can, oops, wrong one. Oops, is it not here? Oh no, it's down the bottom. I'm sorry. I say, give me an activity where a student can utilize these specific memory strategies, teach them how to use acronyms, teach them how to use visualization, teach them how to use what have you. I just type those in and then I'm able to get a response that I can kind of send home with the kids where they can work on utilizing some of these memory strategies. An example, this is, I put it in and I said, create a study guide using memory strategies for this particular document. And it came out with, causes of the World War I, use the acronym MAIN. And then it talked about main, militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. And it even gives like a little example of, oh, how can you remember militarism? Think of the military muscle mania. And then it says, imagine countries flexing their military muscles in a bodybuilding competition. And then it explains how this visual can help them remember the competitive nature of militarism. So I got a document that gives a bunch of strategies for a variety of things that were on that study tool. But then I put it in as, let's pretend you're talking to a fifth grader rather than a ninth grader, because I really want them to build on experiences. And I thought if it brings it down to a lower level, maybe it'll give them, examples that might be more meaningful to them. And it's exactly what they did. Like, I put, again, it comes up with Maine and it says militarism. Think about an army playground. Imagine countries on a playground, each trying to build the biggest toy army. The country with the most toy soldiers thinks they're the coolest. So that might be a little bit more meaningful to the kids because they've all been on a playground in the past. And, so anyway, that is a third tool that I've used with my kids. And then the last one here that I'm going to show you. Again, I have, additional, I kind of thought I'd stick with the memory strategies because it's something I do with a lot of my students. I have kids that I want them to learn how to do this on their own. And so I have students that I'm asking them to fill out, like every time they study for a test, I say, can you show me the strategy that you used to study? And then tell me, do you think it worked? So I have a Google form that I have them fill out. Did you use chunking? Did you use visualization or mnemonics or repetition? And then once they fill that out, they indicate whether they thought the tool they used was effective or not effective. So I've done that in the past and it's nice, kids come in and go, oh yeah, I used it and this is what I did. But I want to see them really like thinking through why they're using strategies and they can even ask Brisk to give them suggestions for, hey, I want to learn this, but I don't know what strategy would work best. So can you give me some suggestions? So again, I took it up a level and I provided them with a Boost activity where the self-reporting tool is on the left side. But then they've got the little tutor over here and the tutor is doing, exactly that. So the student can go in and they can say, hey, I'm working on photosynthesis. And then it says, can you tell me one way you've tried to remember the steps of photosynthesis? And I responded with just to give you an example. Well, I just read my notes. And then it says reading and rereading is a common approach, but there's some other strategies you could try. And then it says, have you ever tried using a mnemonic? For example, some students use Melvin R. Rudd to remember the main steps. Would you like to explore how this works? So it kind of gives the kids the tool in order to be able to use the strategy, or it gives them, the knowledge of how to go about learning how to use that strategy, which is something I do with them in my room, but then I feel like I'm just giving it to them and they leave my room and they're not really sure what to do. So they can actually go home and they can do it on their own and they can log into this anytime. I actually was working with a student yesterday who he said, here I'm doing memory strategies, but they started asking it math questions because they didn't understand how to do a math problem. And it was like, oh, you want to learn this? Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll help you with that as well. So, it doesn't just stop at that one memory tool activity. If the student has other questions, they can continue to ask other questions, and the bot will kind of pick up where they are and will do what they're asking. So those are my suggestions. And I did want to say, Aaron mentioned the different ways that kids can interact with it, how they can listen to the voice being spoken, and they can also use the tool to speak into the microphone. But I noticed I have Grammarly on my computer, and Grammarly will attach to it. So it will also self-correct, spell check for the students as they go. So that's another tool that I thought was kind of cool.
Thank you so much, Karen. Social interactions, memory strategies, these are more ways to take that engagement to the next level. I love this vision of leveling up our student engagement with these tools, and the extraordinary creativity that it unlocks for teachers and things that weren't previously even possible. What I'd love to do now is open it up for questions from participants. You can put questions in the chat, you can come off mute, you can raise your hand, and ask your questions of this extraordinary group of educators. We're teachers, I can practice wait time.
One of the questions in the chat was, what grade levels would you use this for? And we've in Northville used it at all grade levels, and we've got that talk to text speech. And so for the students that are learning to read, this is still a viable option for them because they can still have that conversation with using the microphone. So it's pretty neat at all levels.
Can I say one thing that we didn't share too much of that I love using is I was in the middle school last year and the kids were reading, I think they were reading the book Holes at the time. And my resource teachers were just really struggling with how to get that content to the kids that were at like a first and second grade reading level. And we found the audiobook online, downloaded into, put it into Boost, had Boost create a PowerPoint and summarized each chapter at a first to second grade level. And the kids loved the PowerPoint. We were able to create the PowerPoint with pictures, and the summarization was, at the level that they understood. And the teacher was just like, whoa, like that just opened up my whole world for all the things I do with my students in my class. Cause I'm always trying to struggle with how do I get this content into the kids that have that, the difference in the reading and the understanding level. So that was another one that we didn't show, but it's just, that's an amazing one to me. I love that you can just reduce the content.
Yeah. Some people say we're only limited by our imaginations. And one of the things I've used Brisk for when I'm planning a lesson is to brainstorm ways to teach something. So when I was talking earlier about escape rooms, I was working with a teacher who was teaching ratios and proportions, and we were looking for creative ways to teach that topic. And one of the suggestions from Brisk of the 20 on the brainstorm list was escape rooms. So we asked Brisk to create an escape room on ratios and proportions. And this was not something that the teacher had thought of using, but was the result of that collaboration with the AI chat.
Michelle, there's a couple of questions that I think maybe you can speak to with regards to, is there going to be a way to create charts and graphs in the future?
Yeah, so the math equation generator and charts and graphs we are working on. I want to encourage everybody to explore the three-dot menu on the Brisk menu. There is a way to report issues that are happening or request features, and those are consistently looked at. And so as we're building out the product, we love to hear your feedback and work that into the roadmap.
And that three-dot menu is on the bottom right corner here. You'll see when you open Brisk, there's the three dots, and you can report a bug or ask a question, that kind of thing. Someone asked about PDFs in the chat, and typically the best way to do that is to go to the PDF in its original form. I probably wasn't sharing yet, was I? Oh,
No,
sorry. And now I'm sharing the wrong screen.
that's okay. These things happen.
So I'm going to go back to the three dots first. On the Brisk screen right here are the three dots. You can report a bug. You can get FAQs. There's lots of different ways to get help here. But someone was asking about PDFs. The best way to do this is go back to the original place you found it on the web. So if it's a curriculum piece, log into your account and go to the PDF like I did with the Roald Dahl story for my wife's Amplify curriculum. But this is just a random PDF. Again, I can create from here. You notice kind of a burgundy color. That's a PDF color. You can create from here. So I can create, my wife wanted to do a Google form quiz on a Toy Story of Terror that she was doing for Halloween on understanding plots. And so we just clicked on the PDF that described the movie because we didn't have the actual movie available. And then we just created a quiz from here, and you can do it as a doc or a form. And if it's in a form, it will build it as if it's you. So you can do all kinds of things with a PDF. This is just one way, and it will build the questions. You can say how many, you can say what level, you can say what standards you want the questions around. In our case, we asked for half of them to be low level and half of them to be kind of higher level. So one way to look at those.
Fantastic. We are coming to the end of our time, and I
Can I,
want,
can I say one more thing?
oh, sure.
For your special ed teams, I've also put in some test scores. I leave out the names, but I put in some test scores and I say, can you help me come up with some ideas for SMART goals? And I love that it has helped me do that. So it's made my job easier as a speech pathologist. So tell your staff that. You can use
Michelle,
it.
I'll answer a couple of other questions really quickly that are in here. Yes, I would love for you to batch hundreds of essays at a time, and I know that's something that they are working on potentially being able to do in the future. They ask if you could share an example of an escape room. I don't know if you have one that you could send out with this link. Um,
Yes, and I encourage you to just simply ask Brisk under the something else menu to click something else and ask it to create an escape room for students and put in your standards or the topic that you want it to be about and enjoy what happens. But yes, I will add
there's a
that to it for
There's a
sure.
great Facebook page as well that I belong to that someone from Brisk actually interjects and answers questions on. Brisk Teaching Educators Saving Time with AI. Check it out. You just have to apply to join, and typically, as long as you're, there for the right reasons. So another place someone
Yeah,
asked other places to learn about
yeah.
training out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Aaron. That's absolutely true. Um, we are also sharing a number of other resources in the chat. We just posted our AI literacy deck. I know that everyone is wanting to teach students about what is AI and how to use it ethically and responsibly. And so there is an AI literacy deck now available on our website. There is also an implementation toolkit and sample policies and guidance for districts. Also on our website, I just dropped all of those links into the chat. And we would love to hear from you about how to continue improving our webinar series and what ideas you would love for us to explore in 2025 on our monthly webinars. And because you spent some time with us and learned a great deal about Brisk, for those of you who do not have the Brisk Schools and Districts uh, access to the tools with all of the premium features, you can go to use this QR code and get 3 months free access so that you can further explore Brisk and all that it can do for teachers and for student engagement. Let's see. Aaron, Karen, Jen, I want to thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing your extraordinary expertise and the ways that teachers are creatively using Brisk and Boost in Northville. Everyone else on this call, thank you so much for spending time with us and learning about Brisk and Boost and asking your questions. Please stay in touch. Please reach out with questions that you have or feature requests that you have. And you will be receiving an email from us with a follow-up with an escape room and the recording for this webinar. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much. Have a great
Thank
day.
you. My pleasure.